I am not making this part up when I tell you this. I need you to know that I'm leaving links down below so you trust me that this is real. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to it if this is the first time you are seeing my face. Thank you for clicking on it. My name is Jacy and I like to do story times, chit chats, and rants on this channel. And today's story time is going to be a secondhand story time, meaning it's not my own personal story, but it's a story of somebody that I know where they told me this story and I asked if I could tell it to you guys in dramatic fashion because this one is a doozy. It is about my friend who went on a nightmare cruise that was dead in the water for 3 days. Now, I wanted to tell this story because I was recently invited onto a cruise with some family members, and I was looking into it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, like cruises are so cheap. You get to eat so much food and drink so much alcohol. But then it is kind of just like a floating cesspool of potential COVID bacteria, so maybe not. And then I thought about this story of my friend, and I was like, ooh, you know what? No cruises for me for a while. So if you like story times like this or just hanging out with me, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you can join us for future videos where you get to put your 2 cents in the comments and share your own experiences on this related topic. But with that being said, let's get started on this friend who got trapped on the Carnival Splendor for many a days out at sea. So the name I will give this person in this story will be Annie. So Annie was going on vacation with her mom and her sister to the Mexican Riviera on a cruise for 7 days. And they were really excited because they were just doing a little girls trip. However, they were kind of balling on a budget, I would say. So when you go on a cruise, I don't know if you guys have been on a cruise, but you get your choice of room and they vary in price. So you could get the expensive room, which has a balcony, or you can go the middle tier, which doesn't have a balcony, but at least has the window. And then there's kind of the lower tier where you get an internal stateroom, cruises like to call it, which just basically means a dungeon at the bottom of the boat because there is no sunlight, there's no window, there's no balcony, it's just a room with fluorescent lighting. But that's all they needed. I personally have been on several cruises, and I think the internal staterooms are perfect because they're like $200 cheaper, and you're not spending that much time in your room. When you go on a cruise, you're like on the cruise ship. You're doing things, going out to activities and events. You're not spending all your time in your little room. So you can forego the balcony and the window and save yourself a couple $100s. And that was the mindset of Annie and her mom and sister because they were there to more so spend their money elsewhere than in their room. They wanted to hang out by the pool and drink a bunch of fun little beachy tropical cocktails. They wanted to go to the casinos and maybe gamble a little bit with their extra spending money that they're saving. But more importantly, they just wanted to eat so much. You guys, there's so much food on cruises. I think the last cruise I went on, I literally gained 7 pounds in 4 days. Because you just eat massive, massive quantities of food. There's buffets everywhere, all international cuisines. It's delicious. So they were really looking forward to just a relaxing beach cruise vacation. And that's what they got for night 1. They arrive on the boat, they have to do like their whole check-in process, but then they're able to get dressed up, go out to dinner, have a good time, start getting some drinks in them, and just have a very easy, comfortable first night. But then they said that that very night, it felt like there was an earthquake on the boat. Now that's not normal, being on a big ass cruise ship and feeling like there's an earthquake. So they knew something was kind of wrong, but they didn't think that anything big or traumatic had happened until they started hearing little scuttlings of people out in the hallways and kind of shouts of panic. So Annie goes and opens her door and she sees people coming out of their staterooms a little bit worried, a little bit panicked. She said that right away you could smell smoke in the air. And then they were like, uh-oh, that's probably not a good sign being in water. And that's when they had employees or crew members, cast mates. What do you call employees of a cruise ship? Crewmates? Let's call them crewmates for the rest of this video. So the crewmates start coming down being like, hi everyone, like there's been a little incident. Can everybody please make their way out of their staterooms and up to the upper deck so we can go over any kind of safety protocols. So Annie, her mom, and her sister head up to the upper decks where everybody is again kind of panicky, kind of worried, thinking like, did we hit an iceberg? No, you're going to Mexico, lady. There are no icebergs in this world anymore, not with global warming. But the crewmates try to keep everybody calm. They start going over lifeboat kind of protocols, safety vest information, and it's not really quelling anybody's anxieties because they're like, oh my God, are we about to evacuate this cruise ship on a little dinghy? And they inform all of the passengers that there had been a small fire in the engine room. and that there was nothing to worry about. Except for the fact that they had no power, no air conditioning, no access to hot food, no access to toilets, and they might be dead in the water for a couple of days. But that's all. So yes, on day 2 of what was set to be the 7-day-long cruise where they'd be stopping at Cabo and Ensenada, Mexico, having the tropical vacation of their dreams, they are now 200 miles off the coast of San Diego, or 40 miles off the coast of Mexico, but they were completely dead in the water. So issue number 1 that came of this was their first thought is, oh my gosh, we're not gonna make it to Mexico, but let me call my family and let them know that we're safe and we're okay. No cell phone range out in the middle of the ocean, which also, just saying that scares me. The ocean is like one of my biggest fears. I don't know if you guys knew that about me. Drowning is one of my fears, but just like open water, no, I'd rather just die. No, can't do it. Being stuck out there in open water with no cell service, they were like, well, shoot, can't really live stream how funny this is, let alone call our family members and let them know we're okay, but that's all right, no big deal. So everybody was kind of instructed to just go back to their rooms. You know, there's nothing they really could do. So everybody goes back to their rooms that night, and again, the power is out. It is pitch black in their room. Now, mind you, they saved a little extra coin by getting that internal stateroom, so there was no exterior light. There was no light coming in from the balcony. There was no way to get a window in for a little bit of moon haze, nothing. Pitch black in their rooms. They also had no power to charge their phones and have a little bit of entertainment or even a little bit of light. They couldn't watch television, which was something that was in their room. They couldn't even turn on a light to read their book. So they literally had to sit there in pitch blackness and I guess talk to one another, but I guess that's fine. But like I mentioned, one of the other downfalls that they didn't realize would be such a downfall was that the toilets didn't work. Sure enough, one of them goes, okay, well, I have to use the facilities, but I won't be able to flush. So just keep the bathroom door closed because it's gonna start getting real rank up in here. But Annie says that she, her sister, and her mom were actually in pretty good spirits despite not having a functioning toilet or power. Because again, they were here on this girls' trip and they were fine just chit-chatting in the dark. They were laughing, having a good time, and they're like, this is gonna make for one good story. However, she said what made that first night so unbearable was actually the lack of air conditioning. Because again, they didn't have a window, they didn't have a balcony, so they had no form of ventilation to let even in the smallest amount of draft, and so they're sitting there sweating, soaking in their own perspiration as if they were dipped into a vat of movie theater popcorn butter. They were soaking wet, and the way she describes it is that it truly felt like a coffin. Like they were sleeping in a coffin. It felt suffocating because you can't see what's happening. It's hot and it's sweaty. But they were trying to make the most of this crazy experience. So the next day was the next full day being dead in the water, which I've already gone over. No working toilets for anybody. So Annie said just walking around the cruise ship was just like a plethora of all of these crazy odd odors, and every single pathway you went down was just a new mysterious smell that was nauseating and mysterious, just awful, awful, awful. But also the things that they were most excited to do, they couldn't do anymore. So they're like, you know what, let's make the most of it. Let's put on our bathing suits, head to the swimming pools. The swimming pools were closed because there was no power to actually pump the chlorine. So they would have just been a big old sloshing cesspool of bacteria. So all of the pools and the pool areas were closed off. So we're like, that's fine if we can't sunbathe and hang out by the pool. What was the other thing we want to do? Oh, go to the casino for a little bit of virtual blackjack and digital roulette? Wrong. Those require power. Casino shut down. There goes their other activity. So what's there to do? I guess eat. And again, cruises have all these amazing delicacies and varieties of international cuisines and desserts to choose from. Let's just go eat and get our fill on our food. That's when they look up to the sky and notice swarms of helicopters picking up pallets and dropping off pallets. Now, they had made friends with some crewmates at this point, and they're like, hey, what's going on here? And the crew members kindly let them know that because there was no power, they couldn't cook a lot of the food and a lot of the refrigeration stopped working. So they were now removing any type of perishables. So all of the delicious crab meat and salmon and lobster and filet mignon was being descended into the heavens by a chopper. They also let them know there was no form of power to cook any hot foods. So dashed were their dreams of nice warm paninis or fresh pizza pies or newly grilled burgers, gone, absolutely gone. Instead, these helicopters were dropping down pallets of non-perishable foods. Now take a guess as to what those non-perishable foods would be. Costco muffins? No. Costco bagels? No. Instead, these helicopters were dropping down pallets of croissants with Spam, canned crab meat, and a shitload of Pop-Tarts. So Annie and her mom and her sister were told that there would be a sandwich bar of non-perishable kind of items. So they said, okay, let's go eat lunch. Now, another thing to note is they were down at the bottom level of the staterooms. Again, there was no power to take the elevators 9 flights upstairs to get to where they were serving food. 9 flights. They had to climb up and hold onto the railing for dear life because they were weak, because they hadn't eaten, because they had no alcohol in them to give them energy climbing up the stairs. They get up to the 9 flights and there is just hundreds of people in line, waiting with like a tray as if they were Oliver Twist asking for a scoop of soup. Like they were just desperate for food. But they were in the back of the line, and by the time they got to the front of the line, there was no sandwich bar. It was literally like, would you like a leaf of lettuce and a half slice of tomato with this bottom crusty ass piece of croissant? Tasty, enjoy. The other reason for this, which is absolutely heartbreaking, is a lot of people were waiting in line and getting 2 or 3 plates because they had come with somebody who were physically incapable of going up 9 or even 2 flights of stairs. They were in wheelchairs, they were in walkers. Mind you, a lot of older people take cruises and they cannot walk up flights of stairs just to get food. So these people had to take to them these pathetic crab Spam croissant sandwiches, walk down 2 flights of stairs to their pitch black stateroom that was probably smelling like poop because they couldn't flush the toilets and had to be like, bon appetit, enjoy your vacation meal. I couldn't imagine. So that night, Annie says that late at night, they didn't want to be stuck in their coffin-like smelly room, so they wanted to just kind of like walk around the ship. And they said that on the upper decks, people were actually sleeping up there. One, because it was actually cooler up there with a little bit of sea breeze than in their sweaty, gross stateroom, but also that there was more light out there. There were stars, there was the moon, and there was also this big-ass Navy ship coming to deliver them supplies that at least there were headlights to look at there and some movement out in the ocean to keep them occupied. Annie also said that the toilet situation just gradually got worse, obviously because when you can't flush a toilet that 3 people are using over the course of a day and a half, it's gonna start to get real stanky up in there, that you could see people on the upper decks peeing off the side of the boat. You could see people going off to the side and peeing into cups, doing whatever it took to not fill up that toilet, because then they also worried about what happens when we are able to flush this? Is it gonna be able to flush? Or are we gonna flood our room now with more poopy water? This part's gross. I didn't mean for all this, but it's very important because could you imagine? Like, I think I had my water turned off for like 10 hours one time and I just couldn't flush the toilet for like 2 trips to the bathroom. And I was like, I can't live like this. I would never survive in the woods. Like I am just a domesticated person through and through that I couldn't imagine 3 people sharing a bathroom and not being able to flush it for more than a day. Wow, that sounded so privileged and annoying. I hate myself for saying it. But here's where the cruise line decided to make an interesting choice. And I'm still torn on if this was a great idea or a terrible idea. But everybody was clearly very upset on this cruise. Everybody was yelling at the crew members, being like, what's going on? I want off this boat. And the crew members are just like, I just work here, my dude. I don't know what to do. So to kind of quell all of the passenger anxiety and to kind of calm everybody down a little bit and get the party going again, they decided to just, you know what? Free drinks for everybody. Everybody, unlimited beer and wine, whatever you can handle. Of course, they didn't have a bartender on scene doing mixology because again, no power, no refrigeration. But instead, they just start walking around handing people lukewarm bottles of beer and glasses of wine. Now, this again is a great idea because everybody got happy again. Everybody got their silly goose juice. They're able to dance, have fun. Everybody starts talking to each other. And it feels more of like a weird version of a summer camp, like a survival summer camp on a boat. And everybody was in a good mood. This was a bad idea because people were over-consuming very quickly. They were like, you know what? Getting drunk is the only thing that's gonna get me through this. Give me more and more beer. To where those smells before from the toilets, from just things exiting that way. Well, now things started to exit this way, and people were puking on the decks, over the side of the boat. It was running down the sides of the boat and dripping down into the next floors. I know, I'm sorry. People were puking into toilets that were already too full, in the hallways, everywhere. Puke, puke, everywhere. But I guess that was the price of giving everybody a good time. So the next day comes, and they are again still dead in the water, still no air, no power, no working toilets, no hot foods, and only access to a ton of Pop-Tarts and Spam sandwiches. However, one thing I would love to mention is that Annie, her mom, and her sister, at least from what she tells me, had the best attitude about it. They were not at all shaken up by this at all, because they knew they were safe. They knew they were getting off the boat. They knew help was coming, and they just knew it was going to be a funny story. Sure, it was inconvenient. Sure, it was pretty gross, but they were still so excited to be together that they truly had the best attitude about it. And I think that's why I'm friends with this person, is because she does have such a positive, optimistic attitude that I feel like I'd kind of like be the same way, where it's like, guys, there's nothing we can do. Let's just make the most of it. Sure, it's icky and disgusting, but hey, we're here. Let's try to have a good time with what we can. And so that's what they tried doing. Oh, I forgot to mention from my notes that the helicopters at this point were still dropping off food. They dropped off over 70,000 pounds of crab meat, croissants, Pop-Tarts, and Spam to over 4,500 passengers and crewmates. So a lot of non-perishable food for a lot of people on that boat who were angry, who were hungry, who were starving, and probably smelly. But Annie, her mom, and her sister ended up making friends with the most interesting group you could imagine. I am not making this part up when I tell you this. I need you to know that I'm leaving links down below so you trust me that this is real. But Annie came across this group that was on that specific cruise for a magician convention. I can't write this stuff, you guys. There were 250 magicians on board for a convention who just happened to be there when the power ran out and all the entertainment and events and activities ran out. So what did they do? They gave impromptu magic shows and was everybody's entertainment for those 3 days they were dead in the water. I'm talking card tricks, coin tricks, sleight of hand, reading your mind, the napkin in the hand, oh, it disappeared. Other magic, abracadabra, bitch. They were there to save the day. And Annie said they made everything so much better. They really lightened everybody's mood and reminded them that, guys, let's just make the most out of this situation. We're stuck here. We're all in this together. All in this together. And we're going to make sure that you guys are having a great time. And they did. And she made friends with magicians, and it was the time of her life because she said, this is too good to be true. I couldn't even write this. She said that because of their great attitude, they were also attracting other people with great attitudes and just made new friends. And these friends had balconies, and they were like, hey, come to our balcony tonight. We have just been watching the US Navy ship all night, but at least there's light, there's a nice breeze, and we have lukewarm wine and crab sandwiches. Like, come on over. So they'd be going over to their balcony and partying over there and still making the most of their absolute pitch black darkness party, but with all of these new friends. And it was on that night where they heard shouts of rejoice from the hallways, and they're like, what? Is the power back on? Like, are we being tugged away? What's going on? They open their stateroom door and people are shouting, the toilet's flush! Hip hip hooray! And sure enough, they were finally able to flush their stinky, stinky toilets. Amen, cruise gods. And so the next day, 6 tugboats tugged and towed the Splendor cruise ship back to shore. Now, what's interesting about this is in the prior days, they were actually told that they were going to get towed to Mexico, which again was only 40 miles away because that was closest. And then they would bus in all of the passengers back to America on like an hours and hours and hours long bus ride. But I guess everybody was so up in arms about that that would cause so many like customs issues. And, you know, you don't need a passport to go on a cruise, that it would just be a logistical nightmare. They instead took the long route and towed them over 200 miles back to the shore of San Diego. But I don't think I mentioned this in the beginning. They actually disembarked from Long Beach. So it was several hours from San Diego to Long Beach, where their cars were, where probably their homes were, that they then had to bus the passengers from San Diego to Long Beach. What's interesting about this is that Other people were just like, once they got to San Diego, be like, fuck you, I'm booking my own flight home. I'm getting my own car back. I don't want anything to do with your mode of transportation anymore. And they figured out hotel stays and other ways to get back home. But again, Annie, her mom, and her sister were still like, hey, free bus ride, all right, and made the most of their 2-hour-long bus ride back to Long Beach. And so in reviewing with Annie of how this honestly like potentially traumatic experience was, I asked her several questions. Number one, what were your overall takeaways of being trapped dead in the water on a cruise ship for 3 days? Her number one takeaway was that the crew was incredible. They were so patient in these unprecedented kind of situations. They were so helpful, did their very best trying to keep everybody calm, but also just keep their own head on their shoulders, trying to manage everybody freaking out with no power and still trying to take care of them and give them customer service. So that was her number one takeaway, was how amazing the crew was. And I was like, I love that answer, because that shows how optimistic you are, how on the bright side of things you see everything, where you could have been like, it was the worst 3 days of my life, I'm never taking a cruise again, I have a fear of water and a fear of boats. But no, you said that the crew did everything that they could, so kudos to them. And I say kudos to them and kudos to you. The number two takeaway she had was, she said that I probably have not eaten Pop-Tarts in 4 years because of it. Because she just had so much wine and Pop-Tarts that she's like, yeah, no, I think I'm a bit too traumatized from those two. I think I'm good for the rest of my life. That's a little triggering when I hear that Pop-Tart. I just think of coffin-like state. Nope, not happening again. In terms of their reward, that's not the word, their apology gift, their reparations, their settlement, I guess. I don't know the word for it. But what did they get for being on this cruise from hell? Well, they got a full refund on their cruise, the original price of their cruise, plus 1 free additional cruise. So they basically got a free cruise out of it, no money out of their pockets. To which I asked, so would you go on a cruise again? And her answer was the most emphatic, hell yes, I would, because she was like, I had so much fun with my mom and with my sister. We were laughing about it the whole time because of just how outlandish and outrageous the situation was. But we were still having a great time that we're like, man, could you imagine this with all you can eat food that's delicious and delectable and I will gain 10 pounds? And could you imagine this chilling by the pool and going and sunbathing by the nice little lazy river? Or could you imagine gambling in the fun casino, playing roulette and blackjack and winning money? Heck yes, we would go and do it again, especially if it's free. So this experience was not at all traumatizing for them, but I am so sure you could find stories online of people who are saying that it was the worst few days of their life and that they will never go on a cruise. And I don't blame them either, but just kind of interesting to see how your perspective is on life overall and how that will determine things you do in the future, because hey, they get a free cruise out of it and that's kind of worth it to me. So that's gonna be it for this cruise ship horror story from hell. I wanted to tell this story because I have actually been on 3 or 4 cruises myself. And I have some interesting little snippets if you guys want an additional cruise video with some of my snippets as well as some of your snippets as well. So definitely leave a comment below if you have a crazy cruise story and maybe you might be featured in my next video. I want to start incorporating some of your story times into my snippets as well. So leave a comment down below and let me know if after everything that happened on this nightmare cruise, if you would still take the voucher and go on another cruise with the same cruise liner, because I'm curious to see if you guys would have the same attitude or if you'd be like, hell no, I'm not trusting you guys with my body ever again. I want to know. But I thank you guys so much for watching. And again, if you want to follow me and some of my other travels that probably won't be cruise related for a while, make sure to go follow my vlog channel for all my day-to-day activities here in LA, as well as where I am in the world traveling and adventuring out there. But I thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Toodles! So I'm filming in my bedroom right now because my brother is staying with me and he decided to nap in my living room in the middle of the day when I normally film. So let's go roast him since he deserves it.